Many years after the rapture, amidst the remnants of humanity, some survivors have taken a drastic vow of silence by cutting holes in their throats, renouncing the sin of speech. So today, we will be recapping a 2024 horror movie called Azrael. The story begins with a haunting scene, a woman painting cryptic symbols on a wall. In the next moment, we meet Azrael, a strikingly beautiful woman crafting a bangle made of tree rings and fruit seeds. Her tranquil task is interrupted by a distant sound. She moves cautiously toward the noise, finding her partner sitting beside a fire. Alarmed, she rushes to extinguish the flames, tapes his mouth shut in panic, and retreats, her fear palpable. The man, puzzled and worried, tries to communicate with a soft whistle. Azrael, visibly exhausted, gestures for silence. Sensing her distress, he approaches her gently, offering comfort through a tender embrace. Their connection is intimate, and they share a passionate kiss. Azrael gives him the handmade bangle as a gift, a symbol of their bond. But their moment is abruptly shattered by the sound of approaching whistles. Fear overtakes them as they realize danger is near. They flee, taking cover behind a tree. Determined to protect her, the man decides to create a diversion. Azrael hesitates, but reluctantly agrees, running in the opposite direction. However, Azrael runs forward. Her path is soon blocked by one of the pursuers. She tries to escape, only to be intercepted by another. Despite her desperate struggle, she is overpowered and subdued. Nearby, her partner is also captured, beaten, and dragged to a waiting car. Both are forcibly taken, Azrael thrown into the trunk, and the vehicles drive off in different directions. Inside the dark trunk, Azrael struggles to catch her breath, the separation leaving her distraught. The scene shifts to a chilling new setting. Azrael's forcefully dragged into the depths of a forest and tied to a wooden chair. A sinister woman approaches, slicing Azrael's foot with a knife, leaving her bleeding and vulnerable. The captors retreat to a hillside, performing eerie chants, accompanied by heavy, labored breathing. Their dark ritual summons a grotesque, humanoid creature shrouded in shadow. As the beast lumbers toward Azrael, she thrashes against her bindings, desperate to escape. In her struggle, she breaks one of the chair's handles. A guard notices and rushes to restrain her, but in her desperation, Azrael stabs him in the throat. The man staggers, choking, and collapses near the summoned creature. Seizing the opportunity, the beast pounces on him, tearing him apart. One of the men above the hill breaks into sobs, watching his son die in agony, helpless to intervene. Amid the chaos, Azrael frees herself completely and flees into the forest. She stumbles upon a stream where she cleans her wounds and flashes back to tender moments with her partner. Their kiss, the bond they shared. Spotting some medicinal herbs nearby, she applies them to her injury, but her respite is short-lived. The dark creature, still drawn by the scent of her blood, reappears. Azrael scrambles to hide inside a cave, hastily covering her wound to mask the smell. The creature lingers, but eventually moves on, unable to trace her. Alone in the silent cave, Azrael exhales deeply, momentarily safe, but visibly shaken. Azrael walked through the forest, her steps cautious yet determined. She stumbled upon a road with faint tire tracks etched into the dirt. Following the trail, she discovered a secluded community hidden within the dense foliage. Spotting a narrow passage, she slipped inside, avoiding detection by a watchful guard. As she crouched in the shadows, her eyes fell on a familiar object, a hand-carved bangle she had made for her partner. It lay abandoned on the ground. She quickly picked it up, her heart pounding. A sudden whistle pierced the air. Turning, she saw a group of people she recognized, the ones who had adopted her. Panic surged through her as she ducked behind a wooden crate. From her hiding spot, she watched their leader, a stern woman, leave to tend to her sick mother. The leader entered a gathering in a chapel-like building, where seated villagers hummed a haunting melody. A woman dressed in white painted symbols on the walls, the air thick with reverence and mystery. When the ritual ended, the woman in white, without warning, the woman struck her. A sudden noise from outside diverted attention, and the woman glanced out the window, finding nothing. Unbeknownst to her, Azrael was hiding beneath the building. As the older woman descended the stairs, Azrael tried to stay out of sight, but when the woman lunged at her, Azrael fought back, kicking her to the ground. Injured but determined, Azrael fled, squeezing through a gap in a barbed wire fence, tearing her skin as a guard fired at her. Missing by inches, she ran for hours, adrenaline carrying her deep into the night. Exhausted, she paused to tend to her wounds, only to sense movement nearby. Shadowy, demonic figures emerged, sniffing the air as they closed in. Realizing the danger, Azrael bolted. One of the creatures stumbled and was struck by an oncoming vehicle. The driver, a man speaking an unfamiliar language, stepped out, confused. Azrael jumped into the car, motioning frantically for him to drive. Though she couldn't speak, She gestured to the scar on her throat, indicating her disability. The man turned on the radio, filling the tense silence with music. For a brief moment, Azrael found solace, swaying to the rhythm. Suddenly, a bullet shattered the window, hitting the driver. One of her former captors had found her. Azrael grabbed the wheel, steering the car into her pursuer and crashing into a wall. Dazed but alive, she staggered out, facing the injured shooter. In a brutal fight, she overpowered and killed him, taking his weapon. Azrael retreated into the forest. There, she found her partner sitting by a fire. Relief turned to horror when she triggered a trap, leaving her suspended in midair. One of her pursuers appeared, his face twisted with rage. Before he could harm her, strange guttural sounds echoed through the trees. A demonic creature emerged, attacking the man viciously, tearing him apart. While the creatures feasted, Azrael freed herself. Climbing higher into the trees, she watched helplessly as more creatures dragged her partner away, biting him. One climbed toward her, but she fought back, using the rope to hang it from the branches before falling to the ground. Fueled by grief and rage, Azrael vowed revenge. She returned to the settlement, drawing the inhabitants out with sharp whistle calls. As they searched for the source of the sound, she slipped into the church. There, she confronted the woman in white, who turned to reveal her pregnant belly. Compassion flickered in Azrael, but the woman seized the opportunity to strike her with a pan, rendering her unconscious. In her fall, Azrael's hand accidentally scratched the woman's stomach. When Azrael awoke, soldiers were lowering her into a casket inside a dug grave. They buried her alive. Panic surged as she clawed at the coffin, but then a hidden panel opened at one end, revealing a torch-lit tunnel. Crawling through, she searched desperately for an escape. In the depths of the tunnel, she encountered one of the beasts. It chased her to a dead end, cornering her. Accepting her fate, she closed her eyes, but the creature stopped, sniffing her hand. It recoiled, recognizing the scent of the pregnant woman's blood. With a roar, it turned and retreated, leaving Azrael alone in the dark. The small, tight-knit community had retired for the night. The leader, a resolute woman, checked on her ailing mother before heading to bed. Meanwhile, Azrael clawed her way out of a grave, her sinister return setting the stage for chaos. She made her way back to the quiet settlement, where the leader discovered a woman in the church cleaning blood from her stomach. Suddenly, piercing screams shattered the stillness. The leader rushed outside to find her mother's tent engulfed in flames. Despite their frantic efforts to extinguish the fire, it was too late. The blaze spread rapidly, and one of the men rang the alarm. Panic erupted. Then, Azrael appeared, shooting one of the men without warning. Chaos descended as gunfire erupted, scattering some of the villagers who fled in search of safety. In the turmoil, Azrael shot the leader as she attempted to grab a weapon. Consumed by rage, after witnessing his partner's death, another man picked up his gun and fired at Azrael. But Azrael was cunning. She used whistling sounds to disorient him, drawing him into an open field. There, she swiftly decapitated him, leaving his lifeless body behind. Azrael turned her attention to the church. She entered, intent on killing the woman dressed in white. But the pregnant woman fought back fiercely, wielding a knife with surprising strength. In the struggle, she struck the blade into a piece of wood. Azrael retaliated by biting her neck. Amid the violence, the woman's water broke, forcing her into labor. As the chaos unfolded, the leader appeared with a gun and fired at Azrael. She advanced cautiously, only to see the pregnant woman delivering the baby on her own. Seizing the moment of distraction, Azrael attacked, knocking the older woman to the ground. She picked up the knife and slit her throat, ending her life. The newborn's cries filled the room, but the sound quickly morphed into something unnatural, an animalistic growl. Horrified, the pregnant woman rose, realizing she had given birth to a demonic, goat-like creature. Overcome with fear and despair, she took the knife and ended her own life, her blood pooling on the church floor. As the baby's cries continued, a fierce wind swept through the church, extinguishing the candlelight. From the shadows, a horde of demon-like vampires emerged, roaring as they closed in on the church. Azrael approached the crying baby slowly. The vampires roared in unison, their grotesque forms framing the unholy child, a demonic goat-like being destined to spread terror. If you enjoyed this gripping recap, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.